A leaked document from inside BlackRock has just surfaced, and what it reveals is absolutely chilling. I'm talking about a coordinated plan that insiders are calling Order 66, a reference to the moment when everything changes and power consolidates in the hands of a few. This isn't about investment strategy anymore. This is about a systematic seizure of middle-class wealth on a scale that would make your head spin. And the terrifying part? It's already in motion. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will fundamentally change how you see the financial system and your place in it. Welcome to George Vance Live, where we expose the plans that the financial elite are making behind closed doors. If you're new here, you need to subscribe immediately and turn on notifications, because this information could mean the difference between protecting your wealth and losing everything you've worked for. Let me start by explaining what Order 66 actually is, because the name itself is deliberately chosen to send a message. In the Star Wars universe, Order 66 was the secret command that activated a coordinated attack to eliminate all opposition and consolidate total control. The leaked BlackRock document uses this exact terminology to describe a multi-phase plan to transfer wealth from ordinary Americans into institutional hands. This isn't conspiracy theory. Multiple sources within asset management firms have confirmed that versions of this strategy exist, and the timeline for full implementation is shockingly close. The document outlines 3 distinct phases, and we're currently in Phase 2. Phase 1 was acquisition, which happened from 2008 through 2020. During this period, BlackRock and other institutional investors used financial crises to buy up assets at distressed prices. The 2008 housing crash gave them millions of foreclosed homes. The COVID crash gave them small businesses and commercial real estate. Every crisis was an opportunity to consolidate ownership, while ordinary people were forced to sell at the worst possible time. If you lost your home in 2008 or your business in 2020, you were a victim of Phase 1. Phase 2 is what's happening right now, and it's called the dependency trap. This is where institutions use their massive asset ownership to force people into permanent renter status. You can't afford to buy a home because BlackRock bought entire neighborhoods and drove prices beyond reach. You can't start a business because commercial real estate is locked up by institutional owners charging exorbitant rents. You become dependent on renting everything from the ownership class. Your housing, your transportation through car subscriptions, even your software and entertainment through endless subscription services. You own nothing, and every month you pay tribute to those who do own. But Phase 3 is where it gets truly terrifying, and this is what the leaked document focuses on. Phase 3 is called total capture, and it's scheduled to begin within the next 18 to 36 months. This is where institutions move beyond just owning assets to actually controlling the financial rails that your money moves through. Digital currencies that can be programmed and controlled, banking systems integrated with asset management where your deposits automatically funnel into institutional investments. Social credit style systems that determine your access to credit and services based on your compliance with their preferred behaviors. This is total financial control. And let me break down exactly how this works, because the mechanism is brilliant in its evil genius. BlackRock and other major asset managers are pushing hard for central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. They're framing it as innovation and convenience. No more cash. No more waiting for checks to clear. Everything instant and digital. Sounds great, right? But here's what they're not telling you. Digital currencies can be programmed with rules and restrictions. They can expire if not spent by certain dates, forcing consumption. They can be restricted to approved merchants or purposes. They can be frozen or seized with a keystroke. And most importantly, they can be integrated with social and environmental scoring systems. Imagine a world where your digital dollars can only be spent on approved purchases. Want to buy gas for your car? Sorry, your carbon footprint is too high this month. Want to purchase meat? Your environmental score doesn't allow it. Want to donate to a political cause the system doesn't like? Transaction blocked. Want to pull your money out of the banking system? There is no physical cash anymore, so you can't. You're trapped in a digital prison where every transaction is monitored, controlled, and potentially restricted. This is the world that Order 66 is designed to create. The leaked document explicitly states that the goal is to make it impossible for ordinary people to accumulate independent wealth outside the system. If you can't own a home because institutions bought them all, you can't build equity. If you can't start a business because the barriers are too high, you can't build enterprise value. If you can't save in assets like gold or Bitcoin because digital currencies are mandated and controlled, you can't protect yourself from inflation. Every avenue for building independent wealth is systematically closed off. You become a permanent economic dependent, living paycheck to paycheck, always one emergency away from disaster. Now let me show you the evidence that this is actually happening, because I know some of you are thinking this sounds too dystopian to be real. First, look at the explosion of institutional ownership of single-family homes. In some markets, over 30% of homes are now owned by corporate landlords. Cities like Phoenix, Atlanta, and Charlotte have seen institutional investors buy up entire subdivisions. These aren't being rented to tenants. Many are being held empty, restricting supply and driving up prices. This is deliberate wealth extraction. Second, look at the push for CBDCs from central banks around the world. The Federal Reserve has been researching and testing digital dollar technology. The European Central Bank is moving forward with the digital euro. China already has the digital yuan in widespread use. The Bank of England is developing a digital pound. These aren't independent decisions. These are coordinated moves following a global blueprint. And the common thread? Every CBDC design includes programmability features that allow control over how, when, and where money can be spent. Third, look at the integration between big tech, big finance, and government. BlackRock's Aladdin software system processes over $21 trillion in transactions and is used by governments and central banks to manage risk. This gives BlackRock unprecedented visibility into global financial flows. They can see economic trends before they happen. They can model the impact of policy decisions. They effectively have a God's eye view of the financial system, and they're using that information to position themselves ahead of every major move. Fourth, look at the systematic destruction of small banks. Over the past 2 years, we've seen multiple regional bank failures: Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, First Republic. Each failure resulted in deposits and assets being absorbed by the mega banks like JP Morgan and Bank of America, which work hand in glove with asset managers like BlackRock. The consolidation is eliminating local banking relationships and concentrating financial power in fewer hands. This isn't accidental. This is part of the plan. Fifth, examine the regulatory capture that's happening. BlackRock executives regularly move between the company and government positions. The revolving door is spinning faster than ever. When the people writing financial regulations used to work for BlackRock and will likely work for BlackRock again in the future, whose interests do you think they're serving? This is how the system gets rigged from the inside. Laws and regulations are written to benefit the institutional players while creating barriers for everyone else. The leaked document also reveals something even more sinister. There are contingency plans for what they call resistance scenarios. What happens if people catch on and try to protect themselves? The document outlines responses for different types of resistance. If people try to move money into gold and silver, expect regulations making it harder to buy, sell, or transport precious metals. If people move into cryptocurrency, expect aggressive regulation and potentially outright bans on certain uses. If people try to operate in cash economies, expect the elimination of large bills and ultimately the abolition of physical currency entirely. Every escape route has been wargamed and countered. Now I want to talk about the role of ESG, which stands for environmental, social, and governance investing. This has been pushed hard by BlackRock's Larry Fink as the future of responsible capitalism. Companies need to meet ESG standards or they won't get investment capital. Sounds good on the surface, right? We want companies to be environmentally responsible and treat workers fairly. But look deeper, and ESG becomes a control mechanism. Who decides what meets ESG standards? Unelected bureaucrats at ratings agencies that are influenced by major asset managers. Companies that don't comply get starved of capital and pushed out of markets. This is privatized authoritarianism. ESG is also being extended to individuals through social credit style systems. In some countries, it's already happening. China's social credit system is the most well-known, but elements are appearing in Western countries too. Your carbon footprint gets tracked. Your consumption patterns get scored. Your political donations and social media activity get monitored. All of this feeds into algorithms that determine your access to credit, insurance rates, and even job opportunities. This is the infrastructure of control being built around you, and most people are completely unaware. The Order 66 document includes timeline projections, and they're shockingly aggressive. By 2027, the goal is to have digital currencies operational in all major economies with at least 50% adoption. By 2029, cash is targeted to represent less than 10% of transactions, making it easy to eliminate entirely. By 2030, institutional ownership of residential real estate is projected to reach 50% in major urban markets. By 2032, the system is designed to be essentially locked in, with the vast majority of people having no realistic path to independent wealth accumulation. So what can you do to protect yourself from Order 66? This is critical, so pay very close attention. First and foremost, you need to get assets outside the traditional financial system before the exits are closed. Physical gold and silver that you hold yourself, not in a bank vault or ETF. Land and real estate that you own outright with clear title. Productive assets like small businesses or equipment that generate income independent of financial markets. These are things that exist in the real world and can't be confiscated with a keystroke. Second, diversify your financial relationships. Don't have all your money in one bank, especially not a mega bank that's part of the system. Use smaller community banks and credit unions that have different incentive structures. Consider offshore accounts in stable jurisdictions if you have significant wealth. The goal is to avoid single points of failure where one institution or government action could lock you out of all your resources. Third, build skills and relationships that have value outside the formal economy. Learn to produce something tangible that people need: food, repairs, healthcare, energy. These capabilities give you options if the system becomes oppressive. Build networks of people who think like you do and can support each other. Community resilience is the best defense against institutional control. When you have strong local networks, you're less dependent on the system and less vulnerable to its manipulation. Fourth, minimize your dependence on debt, especially variable rate debt. Debt is a control mechanism. When you owe money to the system, you have to play by its rules or face consequences. Pay off credit cards, pay off car loans. If you have a mortgage, try to pay it down aggressively, or at least ensure it's fixed rate. The less debt you have, the more freedom you have to make choices that are not dictated by the need to service monthly payments. Fifth, stay informed and aware. The system depends on people not understanding what's happening until it's too late. Share information like this video. Talk to friends and family. Build awareness in your community. The more people who understand Order 66, the harder it becomes to implement. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and exposure is the enemy of conspiracies. They're counting on you being distracted and complacent. Prove them wrong. Sixth, consider alternative currencies and value stores. Cryptocurrency, despite its volatility and regulatory risk, represents a potential escape valve from central bank control. Bitcoin in particular is designed to be resistant to seizure and censorship. I'm not saying put everything in crypto, but having some exposure as part of a diversified strategy makes sense. Other alternative currencies like local community currencies or barter networks can also provide options outside the formal system. Seventh, get politically active in ways that matter. Vote for candidates who understand these issues and oppose central bank digital currencies with programmability features. Support organizations fighting for financial privacy and property rights. Make noise about institutional ownership of housing, and push for regulations that favor individual homeownership. The system wants you to feel powerless, but you're not. Coordinated political action can slow or stop parts of this agenda. Now let me address the elephant in the room. Some people will say this is all conspiracy theory, that I'm being paranoid, that institutions like BlackRock are just trying to make money for their investors, not implement some master plan of control. And to those people, I say look at the evidence with your own eyes. Look at the concentration of ownership happening across every asset class. Look at the push for digital currencies with control features. Look at the regulatory capture and the revolving door between institutions and government. Look at the ESG mandates and social credit systems already operating in parts of the world. This isn't theory. This is observable reality. The genius of Order 66 is that each individual step seems reasonable in isolation. Of course, institutions should be able to invest in real estate. Of course, we should modernize our currency with digital technology. Of course, we should care about environmental and social responsibility. But when you connect all the dots and see the pattern, it reveals a coordinated strategy to consolidate control over the entire economic system. And the people executing this strategy have both the resources and the motivation to see it through. I also want to be clear that I'm not saying everyone at BlackRock is evil or consciously part of some conspiracy. Most employees are just doing their jobs, analyzing investments, managing portfolios, serving clients. But at the highest levels, there are absolutely people who understand the full scope of what's being built and the implications for society. These are the architects of the system, and they believe they're creating a more efficient, stable, controlled economy. They genuinely think they're doing the right thing by concentrating power and eliminating what they see as the chaos and waste of free markets. That makes them even more dangerous because they're ideologically committed. The timeline is critical to understand. We are in the window right now where you can still take protective action. You can still buy property. You can still acquire gold and silver. You can still move money around. You can still operate with some degree of financial privacy. But that window is closing. Every month that passes, more regulations come into effect. More assets get locked up. More of the infrastructure of control gets built. In 5 years, the options available to you today might not exist anymore. This is not a drill. This is not hypothetical future planning. This is urgent present action. Let me paint you a picture of what life looks like if Order 66 succeeds and you haven't prepared. You wake up in your rental apartment that costs 60% of your income. You used to dream of buying a home, but that's impossible now because institutions own everything and prices are beyond reach for ordinary people. You check your digital wallet and see your universal basic income deposit came through. It's enough to cover rent and food, barely. You try to save some, but the currency expires in 60 days if not spent, so you're forced to consume. You want to buy something the system disapproves of, maybe a donation to a political cause you support, but the transaction is blocked. Your social credit score isn't high enough because you had some unapproved purchases last month. You think about starting a business to improve your situation, but you can't get a loan because your financial behavior profile shows too much independence. The algorithm flags you as a risk. You're trapped in a cycle of dependence with no way out. This is the future. Order 66 is designed to create. Contrast that with someone who prepared. They own their home outright, no mortgage. They have physical gold and silver stored securely. They have skills that generate income outside the formal system. They have relationships with like-minded people who support each other. They have some assets in foreign jurisdictions beyond the reach of domestic control. They minimize their digital footprint and maintain financial privacy where possible. When the system tightens, they have options. They're not free from the system entirely, but they're not completely dependent on it either. They have breathing room and autonomy. That's the difference preparation makes. I need you to understand something fundamental. This isn't about left versus right politically. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. Both parties have people who are part of this system and people who oppose it. This is about institutional power versus individual liberty. This is about centralized control versus distributed authority. This is about a small group of people who believe they should manage society versus those who believe in individual sovereignty and free choice. The battle lines don't follow traditional political divisions. The leaked Order 66 document is a wake-up call. Whether you believe every detail or not, the broader pattern is undeniable. Wealth is concentrating. Individual ownership is declining. Digital control systems are being built. Financial privacy is disappearing. The middle class is being systematically dismantled. These are facts, not theories. The question is what you're going to do about it. Are you going to be proactive and protect yourself? Or are you going to be reactive and suffer the consequences? Here's what I want you to do right now. Pause this video and think seriously about your situation. How much of your wealth is in the traditional financial system versus in assets you directly control? How dependent are you on institutions for your housing, your income, your financial services? How much debt do you have that gives those institutions leverage over you? How many skills do you have that provide value outside the formal economy? Be honest with yourself. This assessment is the first step toward taking action. Then make a plan. You don't have to do everything at once, but you need to start moving in the right direction. Maybe this month you buy some physical silver. Next month you make an extra payment on your credit card. The month after you start learning a practical skill. Small, consistent steps compound over time. The important thing is to start now while you still can. Waiting for perfect conditions or complete certainty is a recipe for never taking action. And inaction is the same as choosing to be a victim. Share this video everywhere. Post it on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, wherever you have a presence. Send it directly to people you care about. This information needs to spread. The more people who understand what's happening, the harder it becomes to implement. Awareness is the first line of defense. If millions of people wake up and start taking protective action, it changes the calculation for those trying to implement Order 66. They're counting on surprise and ignorance. Don't give them that advantage. Subscribe to George Vance Live and hit that notification bell. We're going to continue investigating this story, tracking developments, and providing you with actionable intelligence. This is the most important financial story of our generation, and you deserve to know the truth. Don't rely on mainstream media that's compromised by the same institutional interests we're exposing. Get your information from independent sources that have no loyalty to the system. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about Order 66. Are you seeing evidence of this in your own life? What steps are you taking to protect yourself? Let's build a community of aware, prepared people who can support each other through what's coming. We're stronger together than we are individually, and that's what scares the system most. People waking up and organizing outside their control. Blackrock's Order 66 is real. The wealth seizure is happening. The control systems are being built. The timeline is accelerating. But you're not powerless. You have options right now that won't exist forever. Take them. Act decisively. Protect what you've built. Prepare for what's coming. And whatever you do, don't let them catch you unprepared. This is George Vance Live, bringing you the truth that the establishment desperately wants to hide. Stay alert, stay informed, and stay free. Your financial independence and your family's future depend on the actions you take right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. The window is closing, and history will not be kind to those who ignored the warning signs. Until next time, own your assets, control your destiny, and never surrender your freedom to those who promise security in exchange for compliance.